We are following breaking news out of Iran that continues to send shockwaves around the world. To get you back up to speed, overnight, the United States and Israel began striking targets inside Iran. And there are reports that Iran is retaliating by striking some of America's allies. Reuters reports that they've attacked Riyadh in Saudi Arabia. Multiple countries are calling for de-escalation, including China, India, and Turkey. The Iranian foreign minister has said that he believes the Iranian supreme leader is still alive, but that they may have lost a few commanders. Early this morning, President Trump posted a video announcing the attack. Take a listen.
A short time ago, the United States military began major combat operations in Iran. Our objective is to defend the American people by eliminating imminent threats from the Iranian regime, a vicious group of very hard, terrible people. Its menacing activities directly endanger the United States, our troops, our bases overseas, and our allies throughout the world. For 47 years, the Iranian regime has chanted death to America and waged an unending campaign of bloodshed and mass murder, targeting the United States, our troops, and the innocent people in many, many countries. Among the regime's very first acts was to back a violent takeover of the U.S. Embassy in Tehran, holding dozens of American hostages for 444 days. In 1983, Iran's proxies carried out the Marine barracks bombing in Beirut that killed 241 American military personnel. In 2000, they knew and were probably involved with the attack on the USS Cole. Many died. Iranian forces killed and maimed hundreds of American service members in Iraq. The regime's proxies have continued to launch countless attacks against American forces stationed in the Middle East in recent years, as well as U.S. naval and commercial vessels in international shipping lanes. It's been mass terror, and we're not going to put up with it any longer. From Lebanon to Yemen and Syria to Iraq, the regime has armed, trained, and funded terrorist militias that have soaked the earth with blood and guts. And it was Iran's proxy, Hamas, that launched the monstrous October 7th attacks on Israel, slaughtering more than 1,000 innocent people, including 46 Americans, while taking 12 of our citizens hostage. It was brutal, something like the world has never seen before. Iran is the world's #1 state sponsor of terror, and just recently killed tens of thousands of its own citizens on the street as they protested. It has always been the policy of the United States, in particular my administration, that this terrorist regime can never have a nuclear weapon. I'll say it again, they can never have a nuclear weapon. That is why in Operation Midnight Hammer last June, we obliterated the regime's nuclear program at Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. After that attack, we warned them never to resume their malicious pursuit of nuclear weapons, and we sought repeatedly to make a deal. We tried. They wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. Again, they wanted to do it. They didn't want to do it. They didn't know what was happening. They just wanted to practice evil. But Iran refused, just as it has for decades and decades.
Now, that was President Trump from Mar-a-Lago early this morning. The attacks rocked Iran's capital, Tehran, and large plumes of smoke were seen near the offices of Iran's supreme leader. The United States has built up a massive military presence in the Middle East over the past few weeks as the president has pressured Iran to abandon its nuclear program.
Israel is on heightened alert, with municipalities canceling school and closing workplaces this morning. And we're going to go back to CBS News senior national security correspondent Charlie D'Agata, who was in Tel Aviv, where they have heard Iron Dome sirens multiple times this morning. Charlie, good morning. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Yeah, good morning. Even in the past 15 minutes or so, the Iron Dome has been fired up. We probably had 3 or 4 air raid sirens, and I keep pointing this out that when the air raid sirens happen here, we get them first on our phones, alerting people to get into shelter, and then the air raid sirens are only local. It's not across this small country, by the way, but this small country in these areas, in these neighborhoods. That means that there's incoming, and after that, sometimes you hear them, sometimes you don't, but the past 3 times you've heard explosions in the background. That means the Iron Dome has been fired up. And I kind of point out that the Iron Dome is a several-layered missile defense system. When you're talking about Iranian missiles, unlike sort of Hamas, who've been firing more local and lower level, you're talking about something that's come a long way and are capable of hitting populated areas, targeting cities, populated cities, targeting bases here, but also capable of targeting U.S. military bases throughout the region. And we have seen that. The video is out there. We've got confirmation that they've tried to attack the 5th Fleet in Bahrain, U.S. military naval base there, Al Udeid in Qatar. So this has been going on, and it continues to go on. So we first heard news that the Israelis and the Americans had launched a joint attack, what they called a preemptive strike. And again, we reported it before, and I've been listening to some of the reports. As far as the Israelis are concerned, and the Americans for that matter, there's a lot of talk about stopping Iran from developing a nuclear weapon. That's in the future. The existing threat right now is Iran's missile arsenal and their ability to fire them off. And yes, I can't count, and we'll probably get the numbers from Central Command. We're obviously in touch with them throughout the day, and Israeli forces to figure out how many missiles Iran has tried to deploy. And with the amount of intelligence and U.S. military assets that are flying over Iran right now, they will be looking at the launches, not necessarily waiting for them to get to wherever they're going. They're trying to get them from launching in the first place. And when we talk about this massive U.S. military buildup that we've seen over the past weeks, the United States military is very, very specific about what the mission at hand might be. What do you need to put into a theater, as the military calls it, a scenario? What do you need to attack an adversary? What the adversary might do to fire back, what you have to do to defend either civilian populations, like here, most importantly, U.S. forces in the region, of which there are on the high end of 30 to 40,000. You've also got a lot of warships at sea, more than a dozen. You've got the USS Abraham Lincoln with F-18, F-35 fighters that have been here for a while, probably involved in what we're seeing right now, F-22 stealth fighter jets here in Israel. That is a first, as far as I'm aware, that you've had U.S. fighter jets, the most advanced U.S. fighter jets, actually on Israeli soil. You've got the USS Gerald R. Ford. It sounds like a shopping list, but this is important because this is exactly what the U.S. military has put in place for a scenario. They would have looked at the targets alongside, by the way, we've learned this from Israeli forces today, that the Israelis have been working with the Americans intimately, is the word that was used, in target acquisition, figuring out where Iran has its assets, where it has its missiles, where it has its missile launchers, where the regime targets are, the whereabouts of their leadership. And again, I know there's reports out there that high-ranking Iranian leadership have certainly been targeted. They may have been killed. We can't confirm that independently, but that's what they've been going after. And we've seen the images out of Tehran and our folks on the ground who've been reporting that as well. So this is where the war game scenario plays out. What the United States needs to have in place to strike targets in Iran. How long is this campaign going to take? What is Iran going to do? Are they going to fire everything at once, or are they going to try to stretch it out? Are they going to try to exhaust Israeli defense forces here? And I have been here in the past where we have seen Iran attack and others attack, Hezbollah, etc. And we haven't quite seen, to be honest, the intensity of those kind of attacks. Even though there have been maybe 20 or 25 of these air raid sirens, it hasn't been on the scale that we have seen, for instance, the 12-day war between Israel and Iran last June. So I think we have to frame that reference, and there's a little bit of guesswork involved, is what Iran is capable of firing, what the United States and Israel has been able to suppress. in terms of their ability to fire back and also air defenses. You know, if you've got U.S. pilots and Israeli pilots that are flying sorties or bombing missions and bombing campaigns over Iran, they have to find some way to suppress Iran's air defense systems. And that will have been key right from the very beginning. And I think the next 24 hours, 36 hours will be key as we start to look at the intensity of Iran's fight back, what they're going to go after. And we've seen it. And this is extraordinary that we've seen attacks not just here in Israel or against U.S. forces, but against U.S. allies throughout this entire region.